After 3 long months, the Black Clover manga is finally back. And I will say that this one was quite the emotional chapter for the Silva siblings. Released in the summer issue of Jump Giga, Black Clover released 2 more chapters equating 48 pages worth of content, which equates to about 3 chapters of the old weekly style. And what I'm happy with is that Tabata decided to focus both of these chapters on the Silva family, instead of breaking the scenes apart into 2 different ones. We've been waiting for over a year, actually like a year and a half, to finally see Noelle face off against her paladin mother in a substantial way. Because when it first revealed Leviathan Noelle, the fight was only a few pages before it moved back to Yuno. These new chapters start off with bringing back some familiar faces. First, the Silva House healing mage, who uses bubble magic. We haven't seen him in a while and you may have forgot about them, but their first appearance was after the fight against the compass mage, the elf Kevin, when he used his magic to heal the Silvas after the fight. And then a few pages later, we get the vaunted return of Kyoto and Kahona in action, the 2 brother and sister from the Seabed Temple. The 2 of them do a combo spell to take down an angel and also begin healing the wounded. It is nice to see them again and actually doing stuff, and it makes me think that one day, soon, we'll be getting the return of other legacy characters, like Mars and Ladros. And then the fight returns to Noelle versus her mother, which, as I predicted, was a lot closer than what a lot of people thought. There was some talk in the fandom that because when their fight started many chapters ago, in the start of that fight, Acier pretty much easily counters and avoids one of Noelle's strongest spells, and they thought that it would not be a close fight. But that would be contradicted, as we would later see Noelle fighting her mother and a Lucius clone at the same time, and she was not immediately defeated by them, which would inherently imply she was at least comparable to her mother in power, and these latest chapters just directly confirm that. They clashed their lances multiple times, and basically stalemate. Acier launches a spell at her daughter, and Noelle makes her own version of Black Hurricane, and creates a vortex of power that protects her and cancels out the spell. And I love the whole how much Asta has influenced Noelle, and to back it up, her mother was actually getting thrilled with this battle, which goes to show the power of Noelle, that she was able to actually entertain her mother, who is a paladin. You can't really entertain somebody to fight if you're not at least close to them in some way. We get confirmation of what Acier's other magic power is from the devil inside of her, and that is water magic, which I will admit, at first I was a little disappointed for her to have such a basic magical attribute, but this actually leads to a pretty massive theory of mine that I will delve into later in the video. It is also unfortunate that we're not given the name of Acier's devil either, which is a weird occurrence because we also did not get the name of Morris's devil, but for whatever reason we got the name of Damnatio's devil earlier, but that will kind of lead to my theory later as well. But Acier would combine her water and steel magic into a combination spell that used up all of her power in one attack, and despite this, Noelle is somehow able to counter that spell with her own Sea God's Roar. Which might seem weird because how was she struggling earlier but then also able to counter Acier, who might have doubled her power by using 2 magical attributes at once and then actually increased to use her full power? But this actually kind of gets explained later on as well. Solid and Nebra are watching their sister fight their mother and are beginning to lose hope. But luckily for Noelle, she's in love with Asta, so she yells the infamous line, "I'm not done yet," and seeing their sister far surpass them and being strong enough to fight their divine empowered mother got the 2 siblings to think about their wretched lives. They began to regret the way they treated their sister and recognize the fault in their ways. And when their sister needs them most, they step up, even if they know they are risking everything to do so. They recognize their weaknesses, how they picked on the helpless. They are weak, but there is nothing wrong with being weak. It's the ones who stay weak. And the 2 of them don't want to act like the past never happened either. Instead, they recognize the past and use that as a springboard into a new future together. And so, the 4 Silva siblings band together to face down their mother. Noelle tells Noelle that she always had the most Latin magic power, but she could not control it, and it always ran wild. Eventually, it got to the point where she held her magic back unconsciously, significantly weakening her spells. Which makes a lot of moments within the Black Clover series make so much more sense. How Noelle went from struggling against her mother, who wasn't even trying yet, to be able to cancel out her strongest magic combined with 2 attributes. How Noelle went from needing added power from the Heart Queen to fight 50% Vanica to being strong enough to pierce through 70% Vanica's body, even though she no longer had the Heart Queen's help and had barely any magic power left. It's because most of the time she is holding back, but sometimes her mind falters just enough to let some of that power leak out. Back to the current events, and their plan of attack is simple. Noelle will combine all of her latent magic with the power of the Leviathan and launch it at her mother. Solid and Nebra will be at her side, helping her control the power, and meanwhile, Noelle will unveil what is likely his most powerful spell, or form if you want to call it that. Mercury Magic Silver Guardian, where Noelle covers himself in mercury, making himself much faster, stronger, and even more durable. This is actually something that was foreshadowed in a funny way. This is likely a reference to the Marvel's Silver Surfer, which was also foreshadowed all the way back in episode 151 of the anime, where Noelle rides a silver surfboard. And Silver Surfer was dubbed by Michael years ago. Even more interesting is that episode was supervised by Yuki Tabata, so we know he was likely planning this for years. Silver Surfer is so strong enough to catch the lance of his mother, hit her, and send her flying backward. So powerful that he can take many hits from her, and is able to actually buy enough time for the siblings to channel their power together. So this is a pretty significant power-up for Noelle, because before it seemed like his mother beat him pretty easily and she wasn't even trying yet, and now she is trying and he's actually holding his own, taking a bunch of hits from her. It gets interesting because Noelle's Latin power becomes so mighty that it begins slicing away at her siblings. But they aren't the only ones in pain. Mercury is poisonous, even against the very mages that are wielding it. Noelle has encased himself in a coat of poison, but this is the cost. All of that pain, and it's still nothing compared to the pain that they gave Noelle. This pain is punishment for their sins, and the atonement that will allow them to rebuild their bonds. We finally get answers on why Nebra and Solid bullied Noelle. Nebra saw that Noelle looked like her mother and was jealous of her looks and beauty, whereas Solid was also a water mage like his little sister, and he knew that Noelle had far more powerful magic than him, so he bullied her, hoping to keep her power oppressed and stay ahead. And with an emotional apology, the two siblings help Noelle and provide her with a power that can stand up to Acier, obliterating her ego and then blasting right through her. But Acier was satisfied. She would die for the third time with the visions of her children, all grown up and standing together, finally becoming a family. The chapter ends with Noelle's power drained, and Noelle possibly dying from the mercury poisoning. And I really could see him dying. His life's mission was to protect his siblings. That was kind of given to him by his mother. Though I still think that if Fuegoleon decides to not be a fraud anymore and go Spirit Diver Saint stage, that will be enough motivation for Noelle to get back on his feet and join the battle. This was a beautiful chapter from the standpoint of the Silva siblings, exemplified by Tabata's amazing and emotional art style. It was a phenomenal fight that I think is one chapter away from perfection. I don't want to complain too much for this chapter, but Acier was the weakest aspect of it for me. She was very villain of the week, and I wish Tabata could have harped more on the fact that the siblings were facing off against their mother. One more chapter between these two, I think would have done wonders, especially if it delved a little bit more into Acier, her backstory, who her devil is, and even at least a little bit on the history of House Silva. At least give her some more dialogue, actual dialogue. Hell, we don't even know who their father is. Why did they have to become a family on their own? Where is Papa Silva? But I truly believe that a lot of what I see as faults of this chapter will be explained later down the line, as Black Clover is probably far from over. Tabata has set up too much, and he loves to make the story rhyme. In the Elf Saga, there was a major plot point, a good guy secretly sharing the body with the soul of the antagonist, and he repeated that with Julius and Lucius, and their reveal at the end of the Spade Saga. Here is where I think he is rhyming. 3 Dark Triad members, who will be paralleled by the 3 Paladins. At the bottom of the castle, there was Morris, who contracted with Lucifero, channeling the Tree of Clifoff. At the top of the castle is Lucius, who has absorbed Lucifero and is channeling the purified Tree of Clifoff. Instead of an army of doubles attacking Spade, an army of angels attacking Clover. And in what other way do I think Tabata's final saga will rhyme with the Spade Saga? The seemingly defeated Dark Triad rose again with new powers. And I believe the seemingly defeated Paladins will do the same after Morgan is defeated in the next issue of Black Clover. Remember that Paladins are supposed to be immortal. Lucius said he would bring back people with undying bodies. They would be immortal. Humanity would no longer have to deal with death. And though Morris and Acier seem to be defeated, they are likely going to return with a vengeance. I have 2 theories to wrap this up. First, there are too many questions left unanswered with the Silva family. 2 major questions. Where was Noelle's father throughout the story, and why is Noelle connected to the sea god? Remember that early in the series, when Noelle was in the Seabed Temple, they thought she was the sea goddess and they worshipped her. Furthermore, in canon anime episodes supervised by Tabata, Noelle is called to the Seabed Temple to help them quell the rage of the Sea Guardian. While there, she hears its song, which is the same song that her mother used to sing her when she was a baby. Why does Acier know the song of the Sea Guardian and the Sea God? And why is she singing that to Noelle? She has steel magic, no connection personally to the Seabed Temple. Well, it might actually be a bit more personal than we think. It's because this might be Noelle's father. This might have been the high priest of the Seaped Temple at the time. And we've seen other worshippers like Kyoto and Kahona's dad use sea god spells, like sea god's hammer, similar to what Noelle does with her spells. And I do think that Asier will come back, and maybe we'll have that information revealed, that Noelle actually does belong to the Seabed Temple by blood. Though another part of my theory has to do with the seemingly half-baked magic used by the Paladin so far. We were expecting pretty potent attributes, but instead, Morris and Asier only had earth and water magics, two of the most common attributes in the series. And I believe this is why. Lucius is planning something with the Tree of Qliphoth. Remember that Lucifero had fused with the Qliphoth, and then Lucius absorbed him. So Lucius has Tree of Qliphoth now, and he's likely purified it in his state. We know that he is talking about using it for a primordial seedbed. The purified Tree of Qliphoth is a plant, it's a tree. Even if it is magical or spatial in nature, it is still a tree. And if Lucius were to plant that tree into the world, what would he need? Good quality soil, something Morris's earth magic could provide. What does soil need? Water, which Asier is in possession of. And finally, what do plants need? Light, from the sun. And it just so happens that the 3 paladins he chooses to fight all had those 3 attributes to help develop the Qliphoth further. Do you remember these 3 cocoon-like things when Lucifero merged with the Qliphoth? They represented the Dark Triad, but those 3 are back now in the purified Qliphoth, and they have now actually absorbed the Sagrada siblings because now Lucius has their power. But they still seem to be there, even though Lucius already absorbed them. So what if these 3 cocoons begin to merge with the 3 paladins, and we get a similar situation to Spade, where the Dark Triad had to protect these runic arrays, but instead, in the final saga, the forces of good are supposed to stop the revived paladins from merging with the world. Those are 2 of my theories for what will be happening in the later developments in Black Clover. It's probably just a little bit of cope, because I want Morris and Asier, and probably Morgan too, to have a bit more development as villains. There are also a few things I want to talk about before wrapping up the video. That is some misinformation being spread. There were a few statements by unofficial news sites that made it seem like the next issue of Black Clover would be its last. But this is absolutely not the case. There is no way the next issue is wrapping up the Morgan fight, the Black Bulls versus the Clones, Asta and Yuno versus Lucius, and then an epilogue to end the series. There's no way that's happening in just 2 chapters. Instead, it actually seems like it's just confirmation that it's the end, or close to the end, of one of the arcs of the final saga, seemingly called the Kingdom Final Fight arc, which does confirm that the final saga does have multiple arcs, but that was already basically confirmed anyways. But that's interesting because maybe, just maybe, we'll be getting more arcs after this arc out of the Ultimate Wizard King saga. The preview of the next issue of Jump Giga implies that the next chapter will be the Morgan fight as it shows Yami. My predictions is that the next issue will be very similar to this one, where both of the chapters, all 45 to 50 pages, will be all about the Morgan fight. This is something I would be fine with, though I would prefer if it still didn't end in the next issue. I hope we get 2 issues full of the Morgan fight, unless if we actually got 3 chapters worth of content, but I doubt that. The fall issue of Giga usually releases in mid-October, so this wait is going to be less than normal. It's probably going to be about 2.5 months until we get the next Black Clover chapter. And do keep in mind that while Giga is a seasonal magazine, it usually gets 4 issues per year, an average of 1 issue every 3 months. Some years it does more than that though. It's done 5 or 6 issues at certain times, so be prepared just in case we get more Black Clover than what we're expecting, which would be awesome. I'm actually thinking that Black Clover has a long time to go till it ends. If you just analyze how Tabata has been writing while in Giga, he dedicated an entire 30-page chapter to just the Magna and Luck fight. He dedicated a 21-page chapter just to set up a bunch of other fights with the Black Bulls. And then Marilena and Morris got their own chapter to conclude their fight as well. And then finally, 2 chapters equaling 48 pages of dedicated content just to the Noelle fight. We still have a bunch of Black Bulls fights set up. We still have the Morgan fight left. We have Asta and Yuno versus Lucius, which is probably going to be the longest fight out of all of them. Assuming Giga only goes for 4 issues per year, this is how I predict the next few issues. The fall of 2024 will be the Morgan Paladin fight. Winter of 2025 will be the Black Bulls versus the Lucius clones. And then finally in the spring of 2025, it will return to Asta and Yuno versus Lucius and the start of the fight, and I believe we'll be given a full issue. Both those chapters will be dedicated to that fight. But then in the next issue after that, in the summer of 2025, a year from now, I believe that Lucius will get the upper hand and reveal his cards. This is when we'll learn about the revelations of what he is doing with the Tree of Qliphoth, and then possibly bringing back the Paladins that were defeated. Even if the Paladins do not come back, I do not see Black Clover ending before 2026, unless if it does switch to a monthly schedule, which is possible. Not only has it been almost a year of Tabata being out of Shonen Jump now, which is a lot of time to rest and recuperate with his family, but pretty soon a spot will be open in one of these Shonen Jump monthly magazines. There's no actual statements or any actual evidence that Tabata will be switching. It's just wishful thinking at this point, an educated wish, if you will. At the very least, Black Clover has 100% beaten the allegations. You might have forgotten, but when it was revealed that Black Clover was going to be moving to Jump Giga almost a year ago, so many people were making fun of us and kind of getting scared that Black Clover was going to be ending in 1 to 3 issues of Jump Giga, and that Black Clover would be done, and it would be a very bad, rushed ending. Well, here's the thing. We just had our 3rd issue of Jump Giga. We are confirmed to have a 4th. That'll be coming in the fall. And usually they would say that was the final chapter if it was, which is just all but confirming we are getting a 5th issue. So we definitely beat the 1 to 3 issues allegations. It's just confirmed at this point, and it's probably not even gonna be close to 3. So everybody making fun of Black Clover, yeah, eat crow. It's not getting rushed. I think it's gonna have a good ending. And today's sponsor is me. I just want to tell you guys that I have entered a writing contest on Kindle. If you don't know, I do like to write stories for fun, and I've submitted several chapters of my story so far. It's completely free to read. There will eventually be 10 chapters, so go over to Kindle and please read my story and let me know what you think about it. It'll be linked to the description. My story is called Castle Planet. It's very much in the lines of a light novel battle shonen, but it's more sci-fi fantasy, maybe being a little bit of cyberpunk and Star Wars. So if you like Star Wars or any of the manga that I talk about on this channel, then you might enjoy it. So please go check that out and tell me what you think. Anyways, guys, I'm so glad Black Clover is back again. That's the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for support, and peace out.